Hey guys, I think I'm going live. Can't see anything yet. Let me see here. All right, cool. It is up and running. So, week 6 has started last week, and I haven't started it yet. I was working on the week 5 homework, and I just want to go over, just look at the difference between my solution and the solution that was posted on the IOHK GitHub. Let's see, am I in that? Yeah, week 5. So on the GitHub for input output Plutus Pioneer program, you can switch from the main to the solutions for the week that you're in and look at what a solution was. So I opened up, I I solved homework 1, and I wanted to look at it and see what the difference was between mine and it, and they were pretty similar. I should also look at um, let's see, homework 1. So this is what it looked like before anything was done. Um, had to write the MK policy um, and also the policy and the currency symbol. And only allow minting or burning tokens if the owner of the specified public key hash has signed the transaction and if the specified deadline has not passed. So we had to write all that in there. And here's the solution that they came up with. I excuse me, I copied and pasted it into VS Code just to look at it side by side. So MK policy, it's pretty much the same thing I wrote, except this is kind of in a different format than we have done it up until now. Instead of making a variable for this line right here, which is the exact same thing. So I made the variable down here, or is that what I want to call it? Do I want to call it a variable? Um, yeah, I guess so. But it's actually a function. So I made this function down here, which returns a bool, um, and it takes in the info, the tx signed by info, and the public key hash. And this, I believe, uh, I'd like to look at that more closely, but it compares the two. Um, compares the two, and if it's not, it shoots a false. So that is basically the same. Um, I just have this function defined, and they just put the function right within the parentheses. And then it's the same with the check deadline. I defined the function check deadline, did a trace if false, um, and they defined to deadline contains info, txinfo valid range info, and I did the exact same thing. So that MK policy is all the same thing, just written a slightly different way. And then we had to write the policy here, and yeah, I have to think about how to explain this. I need to understand this more so that I can explain it, but it has to do with um, yeah, I'm not sure exactly the order that it's done in. Yeah, I have to pay more attention to that and really understand why it's done the way it is. But anyway, we had to lift the public key hash and the deadline. Um, so that I could compile. because you don't have this information before before compile time. So you have to do this fancy trick with it. But anyway, I wrote it the same way, and I was referencing some old code and kind of like figuring out what I needed to put in there to make it work. And really, there's a pretty good hint as to what I needed based on how this was written. No, where's it at? Yeah, so this policy had these, showed that it needed these inputs. So I kind of knew what I had to lift out um, based on that. And basically, so I just basically plugged it in. And then the currency symbol, yeah, so currency symbol, we had to define that. And it gave, yeah, it was publicly, it takes in public key hash, slot, returns a currency symbol. And that was predefined, so I sort of knew what it was looking for. And I wrote the same function. So anyway, it worked out. It was slightly different, and it's been a couple days now, so my mind's not totally in it. And then for homework 2, I look at what that assignment actually was, and I struggled with it forever and couldn't get it to work. It just wouldn't work right, and I couldn't figure out why. And what we had to do was create a minting policy for an NFT that would minting transaction must consume the given UTXO as an input, where the token name will be an empty byte string. So that's slightly different than the example that we had for the NFT. Where it took in the OREF transaction name and the script context info. Ours, this next one was pretty much the same. It just didn't take in the transaction name. So, and it was an empty byte string, which this is an empty byte string. At least that's how it looks when for humans to read it. So anyway, I looked at the NFT example. It kind of gave me really good hints about what we needed based on here. So I went through and defined all these functions, and the only one that I knew had to change was this one. And I knew that the policy script only took only took the OREF. So I basically just deleted the transaction part of it, or the transaction name part of it, and the currency symbol. Let's see, the currency symbol. I knew it didn't take the transaction name. I knew it only took the OREF. And I was able to write it. And I tried to write it pretty much like that right there, and it shot an error because it was formatted like this, where it what's it called, composition. You have to compose it it uses currying, which means that if it if you're if you have a function here that takes one input, you don't like have to put a basically a variable name here, which would look like that. You don't have to put a variable name there because it knows it needs it, and you can simplify the way the whole thing looks just by getting rid of that and getting rid of, I guess that would be called the input name, but so that's the same thing. And at first I tried to write it like this, but that fails because that it's just not the right I want to say notation, but that's not the right word. It's not the right operator for doing it this way with currying or composing it. So yeah, passing just the oref in to the policy to produce the script currency symbol. And then everything else was the same except for transaction here, and currency symbol only took in oref and not transaction as well, so I got rid of those. You can see that, and I just put the empty byte string there. And I'm going to save this, and I'll show you the crazy thing it did when I tried to run it like this. See if it works. But yeah, so that's what it does. It's like it doesn't throw error, like an error in the way that I was used to it. I guess this is an error, but I just I couldn't understand what it was trying to tell me. Let's see, PC plugin error, reference name which is not local, built-in, external, or inlineable. So this is the big key here that it should have jumped out to me, but I just saw this big mess and was like, I have no idea what this even means. So inlineable, what I ended up doing was just like bang my head against the wall for a while and then just looked at the solution. So, and I'll show you what the solution is, and then I'll try to talk about why. But anyway, so I got pretty much everything right as far as what goes here, but this I actually had to define the token name as the type token name and apply empty byte string to it. And it had to be an inlineable because it's oops, sorry. It's like a Plutus type that can't be compiled by Haskell on its own. So it has to be inlineable if I'm understanding it correctly. But anyway, I'll show you what I had to do to make it work. And it wasn't much, so I guess that's a good thing, but I don't know. So just define it, change that variable to what I just defined, or that empty byte string to actually the type token name defined as an empty byte string in those two places. And then let's see. Now I'm going to quit and reload this. I saved that. So yeah, so now that worked. And I think, let me see if well, to test. So yeah, then it does what it's supposed to do there. So I wasn't far off on the solution. I feel like I understood everything except when and why, and I still don't understand when and why something has to be inlineable. So I'm going to pay some more attention to that and try to dig into it more. But what, back on Discord, on the Discord here, other people, ran into the same thing. And I feel like here it's explained. I can zoom in on this. No, okay. There's probably a way to make this bigger, but I don't know. Cabal REPL evaluates everything you give it as regular Haskell code, including your validation functions. However, the Plutus core compiler can't handle the entirety of Haskell, so it gets tripped up when your functions aren't inlineable or when the basic building blocks of your functions don't have a direct translation into Plutus core defined. So you can test your validator functions in REPL, but make sure you're only using operations that are defined in Plutus repository rather than wider Haskell ecosystem. So yeah, it wasn't inlineable, and somebody said like somebody else is struggling with it here, and they're pointing out that how ADA tokens defined as an inlineable, an empty byte string. So that would have been a good, if I would have looked at that, which is ADA token is defined in here, Plutus v1 ledger ADA, and it's defined as token name empty byte string. Actually, what is that? TH as TH ledger.value. Token name, built-in byte string. So it's defining it as that that token name, empty byte string, which is just empty quotations. So, and that's, I mean, that's inlineable there. This is not inlineable. At least I'm not seeing it that way. So this would have been my clue to look at this and see that that itself has to be inlineable. I think that's why, and I, like I said, still don't quite understand it. But so that was my solution. That's how close I got, and that was what I needed to do to get it working. And I'm going to continue on to week 6 now and keep taking notes. If you want to check out the notes that I took for week 5, for whatever reason, they're in here. And this kind of talks about the ledger.value and how tokens are defined, how ADA is defined, and how to kind of work with that, singletons, and that sort of stuff. And I'm going to post my solutions on here. And I also, I think, have some notes. Not with this one, but I think I put some notes in the others. But anyway, yeah, I'm having fun in this course. It's super challenging. I feel like I'm definitely learning a lot more about extended UTXO, how it works, smart contracts, Cardano in general. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next class. It's going to be, it sounds really interesting. It's full, from what I understand, it's like beginning to end, setting up a smart contract that can run on the testnet that uses oracles, which is like data outside of the blockchain. And so it can be, I mean, the example I hear everybody refer to is like weather. It can be information about weather. It can be information about, like, I don't know, sports teams and scores. Could probably be yeah, just any sort of data that's available to use. Yeah, prices of different things, commodity stocks. Um, Maybe even like flights or the amount of traffic or fuel that's being consumed or electricity that's being used. Um, and I'm pretty sure like Wolfram Alpha is linked up or will be available as like an Oracle service. So pretty much any data you can get off of there. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to learn about that. I think it's super powerful. I love to think about use cases for that and some cool things that can be done. Seltzer water. um, oh, it looks like I had somebody watching for 5.5 minutes. So that's pretty cool. uh, anyway, have a good night, and I'll try to give an update again in a couple days, probably.